Call the meeting to order. It's 6 o'clock. So Candy, can you get it started?
Yes. Bonnie Billions
Here.
Bradley Young is online. Jason Evans
Here.
Brandon Partain
Here.
Shannon Martell
Here.
Renata York is absent.
I think we're good to go then. So we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, we're going to start with agenda number 3, which is the general public comment. And I haven't turned anything into me, but if you're not familiar with this process, if you want to speak, you fill out this form and then you just bring it up to this table. Okay? And I don't have anything for the, if you want to say anything, it would be at the end of the agenda. I think it's item number 9. Yes. So I don't have anything for item number 2. Oh, okay, item number 11. All right, so then we'll move right into the approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes from last time, February 4th?
Make a motion to approve.
I'll second that. Brandon, 14 seconds.
Okay. All right. Any nays? Any favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so then we're going to go on to report on requests for service from previous CAB meetings. And so we always get input from our board members of how we can make the meeting more meaningful to people. And so when you do have a public comment, what we do, we can't respond to you during this meeting because it's not on the agenda. And we always felt that's kind of rude that we can't respond to you. It feels kind of bad. So what we do is we get back to you on item number 5. We report on it. And so I'm looking at the previous requests and the resolutions, and there's nothing. So we don't have anything to report on this meeting. With that being said, I do want to point out in your packet at the very back, building skills for dignified disagreements and the dignity index. And so one thing that I just like to point out that aligns with this item number 5 is that we listen to understand, not to respond. So we try to practice that. And we also we would challenge ideas, we don't attack people. So those are 2 things that I personally try to work on, and I know the other board members do too. So that's just a little reference of what we're trying to model for ourselves. I've been modeling it with my family, by the way. And it seems to be working. Because they're, once they're either conservative or they're liberal and they're far ends, and I'm in the middle. So it works well with them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go to number 6, which is the public safety updates. And I'm confused by, we don't have the written report this time, do we, Candy?
There is one within the packet.
There is one in the packet.
For the fire.
For the fire, but we don't have one from the sheriff. I know that all our Spanish Springs citizens like to hear from our sheriff, and we like to hear from our fire department. And what we're trying to do is change that process. To have our fire department here, we like to change that process so that it's in writing. The report is given to you in writing, so that you can refer to it more easily. And where is the fire one in here?
It's the very,
What do you have?
right after that.
4.
4th page back.
There you go.
Oh, right here. It's this one. And so you can look that over. Did you want to report to that?
I'm gonna I'll just speak. Brett Taylor, Week Community Coordinator for Buffalo's Fire. I'm not gonna get into the response statistics. You guys can read that. But if you have any questions about it specifically.
Oh, could you go to the podium?
Yeah.
Because we film it. We're not the best filmers, but we try. So if you just stand at the podium. Yeah.
If you have any questions specifically about any calls or any things that in Spanish Springs, I'm happy to route those up because I'm not on the response side of things. I'm more on the mitigation side of things. And so if you have any questions specifically, just either find me during these presentations or now, and I can route those to the right person that can get the information back to the CAB. And so is there any questions on response statistics or any calls in your neighborhoods that you were concerned with. The one kind of PSA I'll have, and this is from my side of the house, is that we're had a lot of moisture over the winter. We had a lot of we're gonna have a lot of grass growth, especially out in these areas around, you know, east of Sparks. And so that adds to a very different kind of fire season that we're used to. We get a lot of fast moving fires through a heavy grass crop. That's what all this winter moisture does. So really want to encourage people to keep the grass growth back from their house. Taking care of it now is much better than taking care of it in July when you're trying to pull, you know, grass in your hands and need 100-degree heat. So like dealing with it now, keep, you know, if those little green shoots come up right now, that's more likely cheatgrass. It cures out really early, and it's very dry, hazardous fuel that routes fire right to up to the side of your house. So keep an eye on those things this time of year. It's much better to deal with it now than when it's this tall and it's, you know, 100 degrees out. So that's my PSA for the night. And we'll have a lot more in a little bit that we can get questions back from with Kelly about FAM, CWP piece and all that. So
Thank you very much. And your report looks great. This is really nice to have in our hands.
tell Adam that you said so.
Yes, I really appreciate it. Looks really nice. Okay, so that was our public safety update. And so now what we're going to do is go to item number 7. And I'm pleased to introduce our new county manager, Kate Thomas. And so she's going to come up and share some information, and congratulations on this new position. This is a challenging position. And we're so glad that you're going to be the county manager.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, thank you all for being here. First of all, I don't want to put my back to anyone, so hopefully you can still see me if I stand back here. But first of all, I want to say thank you to all of you. The fact that you come out here after work on any given day to hear about things having to do with the county is such an honor for us to have that public input. And we like to create this forum. And so thanks for spending the time this evening. And I hope not to bore you droning on about myself, but I do want to talk a little bit about my qualifications and sort of the role of the manager and where I see it going. And then I'd love to answer any questions that y'all might have for me. So with that, I have been in local government for a very long time. I started in 1996. I fell into a job in a city in Southern California. I am not from California. That's where I was last living before I moved to Northern Nevada. I just going to get that on the record first so that folks, so I grew up in Michigan.
Being from California.
I grew up in Michigan. I was there through my undergraduate degree, and then after that, I moved out west with my family. My dad relocated for a job, and I said, "Get me out of Michigan. I'm going out west." So I ended up in Southern California, and it was there that I found a job at the city of Thousand Oaks, which is in Ventura County. It was by happenstance that I fell into it, but I quickly fell in love with public service and loved giving back to the community in the way that I did. I ran a used oil recycling program as a management analyst in the public works department, and I loved interacting with the citizens, and they really appreciated the service that the city was providing for them. We took used oil. Fun fact, oil never wears out, it just gets dirty, so you can re-refine it. It's a really cool thing, but I digress. So anyway, I ran that program for a while, got an opportunity to work cross-departmentally, and then when my husband and I decided 7 years after I was at that job that we would relocate to Northern Nevada for several reasons, including that my sister lived in the area, I got a job with the city of Reno. And I served as a assistant to the city manager. Back then it was Charles McNeely. He served for about 12 years as a city manager. It was a long time. He was a great leader, learned a lot from him. While I was there as the assistant to, I was able to help revamp all the special event ordinances for the city that are still in place today. Got to meet a lot of people doing that, work a lot cross-departmentally, met a lot of my friends in public safety through that work. But it was from there that I was invited to serve in a state office. I was asked to come join the Secretary of State's office as the Deputy Secretary for Operations. A person that I had been working with at the city of Reno took a job as the Chief Deputy Secretary of State under then Ross Miller, who was our youngest Secretary of State at the time. And so in 2007, I left my city job and went to the state. And for 5 years, I served as your deputy secretary. I worked on the kind of the behind the scenes things for the office. I did the budget, legislation, the finance. I oversaw a 19-person IT department. We did a lot of cool things while I was there. We took over the state business license from the Department of Taxation. We set up the Living Will Lockbox and the Domestic Partnership Registry. Lots of big projects, so a lot of exposure to big software projects and statewide initiatives, as well as learning a lot about the legislature. So that's where I sort of cut my teeth on legislative issues. And it was great work, but 5 years into my role there, I was invited to go back to the city of Reno and be their budget director. And so though I loved working at the state, especially in the state capitol, it was a really cool place to be and learn all of that. My heart was really with local government. And so I took the opportunity to go back to Reno, and I worked as the budget director for the city of Reno, overseeing the departments there. Their budget at the time was under $500,000, but still really important work, learning how to try to put the city in a little bit better of a position. They were coming out of some tough times. We weathered the economic downturn, and then I kind of came in on the heels of that. When I was at the Secretary of State's office, we had to go through layoffs, and I committed that that would not be an exercise that I wanted to ever experience again in my career. And so it was really important to me that budget and strong fiscal alignment is something that I would always seek in wherever I worked. And so after being the budget director, I moved up to be the assistant city manager for the city of Reno. And then in 2017, I was invited to come over to the county and be the assistant county manager under then Manager Slaughter. So I made that move in 2017. I've been in that role for about 8.5 years before I decided to throw my hat in the ring to be the manager when our previous manager left. Again, I go back to the strong budget. A lot of people ask me, why did you come to the county, or what do you like working about the county? And one of the things I can say wholeheartedly is how resilient and steadfast the county is about budgeting and really being financially and fiscally conservative and responsible. I've always honored that. When I was at the city of Reno, we would always look over to the county with their strong fund balance and fiscal policies and low debt to revenue ratios. And it was, the county is a leader in that way. And I'm proud to be a part of an organization that is still that way. I'm really proud of my bosses for continuing that narrative. I will say, as your county manager, the role itself is much like a CEO of an organization. I do get a little bit of slack for, salaries and all that sort of stuff, but we are a 3,000 plus person organization. That's how we deliver services, is 70+% of our budget is people. That's how we do the things that we do, which are wide ranging, and with 26 departments, everything from public defense to plowing your roads to animal services, and it goes on and on. We have libraries, we have courts, we have community services department and roads and the built environment. We have human services, which includes child protective services, it includes seniors, it includes adults, and it includes homeless now. And so the breadth of the scope of work of the county is significant, and it's really where I have found the most reward in my career, having been in a lot of different places. I can speak pretty confidently about that. And giving back to the community in a way that helps our citizens through public guardianship, all of it is really important and impactful to me. As the CEO of the organization, it's got $1 billion budget. I am really, and I've been asked a couple of times, what is your focus for the county? Where would you like to take the county? And I like to remind people, I don't take the county anywhere. That's the 5 policymakers that are hired and elected by the people of the region to serve. They do the hard work and make the hard decisions. My role is to execute on that. So when the county commissioners say, we're going to move in this direction, I align the staff and the resources behind that to execute that vision of theirs. And so my vision for the organization, not the county, because everybody wants to know, but my vision for the organization right now is one that is focused internally. I think you can hear that I've been here quite a while, and so I know a lot of people. I've worked with a lot of organizations and nonprofits and across government sectors. So right now, I really want to laser focus on the internal organization and get it to a place where, from a employee standpoint, it is the cream of the crop. It is the organization of excellence where everybody wants to come work because we have great benefits. We have really competitive salaries compared to our counterparts, and we're right in the middle there. And we have great work environment. And so really focusing on that culture internally is where I'm going to be focused for the next however long it takes. We are getting ready to weather a little bit of a decent economic shift. We are not going to be adding staff. or if we do, it's going to be very, very minimal. But we're also in a position where if we don't change something in the next 5 years, we're going to have a structural deficit. Because the revenues that the county takes in, and about half of our revenues in the general fund are property tax, which granted is more stable than our city partners, who unfortunately have a little bit more reliance on sales tax, which is more volatile. But the property tax affords the county a little bit of more of an opportunity to have that more stable revenue source. And so we're very good about that and understanding that. And so no new staff or very little, because staff are expensive. We talked about how many we have, and they grow every year with cost of living and things like that. But in order to deliver those services, that staff has to be paid accordingly. For anybody that has a small business or understands, or a large business, you understand that you're as good as your staff. And if that staff is really good, they stay because they're compensated fairly, and they can afford to live in the region that they live in and serve in the way that they serve. So it all intertwines and it makes the organism of the county stronger, and that's what I'm all about right now. So that's where my focus is. So with that, I'm going to stop droning on and on. I know that you have limited time this evening, and I want to be respectful of that. So I'm happy to take any questions that you might have for me. Don't all jump up at once.
Joni has a question.
Joni, yes.
What is the most difficult part of your job?
Oh, well, one of my bosses is in the room, so I don't know that I'm gonna answer now. The most difficult part of my job is, I'll give you, today is a good example. Lots of stuff to do, lots of 26 departments, and trying to support all those departments. But at the same time, almost every day, or at least weekly, we get an issue either federally or a personnel issue, or there's a citizen issue that's really important, or something comes up in the newspaper. So it's leaving time in your day to properly triage and then communicate those issues to my bosses, to the organization as a whole. It's really challenging, but it's also really rewarding if it's done okay. It's not an easy job. I knew that going in. I've watched it for 3 decades, and I've served under a variety of leaders in an executive leadership position. So I knew what I was getting into, but so far it's been kind of fun. But I hope I didn't just jinx it. Thank you for asking. Other questions?
Kate, really, I appreciate you coming, and we have another question, I believe.
What is your strategy for managing the community's expectations?
That's a tough one. And so far it's been transparency and openness. I've always had a really strong communication skill with employees. Sometimes I probably tell them things I shouldn't, but I figure as long as I trust the employees, I get their trust back to the point where they're wanting to work because they feel like they're part of something, right? They understand. So they're not going to hear things third hand. When I say the employees, it really centers around the executive leadership. So all of those department heads, getting them to be good communicators, not relying on the county manager's office or me to communicate, but empowering those department leaders to communicate well with their staff so that their staff look to them as the leaders. Those leaders look to us as the collective whole. It seems to be working. I've only been in the actual role since December 1st, but in the interim role since June, we rolled out a new way of doing our department head meetings, for example, and it's really, it was a little rocky at first. People aren't used to talking about things that maybe we don't want to share, that we're experiencing hardships in our departments. But when the department head is brave enough to say, I'm having this issue, and everyone's like, I'm having that same issue, here's how I triaged it. So getting people to talk organizationally and breaking down some of those internal silos seems to be the ticket.
Are you gonna hang around for
Yeah, I'm gonna hang around. So if you've got stuff for me afterwards,
well, it's more specific rather than just a general.
that's totally fine. And I also have a couple business cards that have my cell phone on it. I just looked, they are my old business cards, but it's still the same number. You can just cross out assistant county manager and it's basically the same card. So if you want that, I've got some in the back, but again, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah,
today.
thank you
It's
for
nice to
being
meet you
here.
all.
It's pretty nice that you visited us in the evening when you put
Of
in a long
course.
day. So I
And
appreciate
if you'd
that.
like me back, I'm here. It's
That's
all good.
that's great
You are
to know.
here, so you are part of the community, and I'm happy to represent and be your public servant.
Well, it was really nice to get to meet you face to face. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we have got a pretty important presentation. We voted on these topics for our CAB meetings for the year, and we've got them all planned out for the year. But one of the things that's important to us out in Spanish Springs is the fire and danger and what we can do about our own personal responsibility to protect ourselves. And so I'd like with that to introduce the Nevada Division of Forestry and the Truckee Meadows Fire Protection District. I've heard great things about your presentation.
That's great. Up to the hype.
James,
It's mostly her presentation, man. Just the sideshow.
well, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Commissioner, for having us here for the CAB. And my name is Kelly Nevels. I am the Fire Adapted Nevada Coordinator for the Nevada Division of Forestry. I'm also a wildland certified wildfire mitigation specialist and a forester. So Fire Adapted Nevada, what we are is we are a multi-agency partnership with the Forest Service, the BLM. I don't think they're Wildland Fire Service yet, but it's BLM, the University of Nevada Living with Fire under the extension, and Nevada Division of Forestry. Our main goal under FANT is to create fire adapted communities. We want to prepare people for wildfire, creating defensible space, outreach and education to understand what that means, and then engaging the community to become active in their own community to keep their communities resilient. All right, everybody knows these two. So for years, and decades, we've looked at communities or looked for these two guys with two iconic voices to understand the relationship that we have with our fire and forest. Smokey reminds us that our actions can prevent those wildfires, and his message is rooted in responsibility. The Lorax speaks for the forest with the communities within it. His message is more on preparedness and conserving and being responsible in those forests. So together, these two characters frame the full picture of what we're talking about here in fire adaptation. So again, for 80 years, we've lived with only you can prevent forest fires. This has been extremely effective and almost too effective. We've now created what's literally called the Smokey Bear effect. What's happened is we've taught so much on suppression that we've led to an unnatural fuel buildup in our forests, and now they become so unhealthy. And that's the conditions we face today, as you've seen with the extreme wildfires we've had surrounding us. We need stewardship, restoration, and more responsibility, which brings us back to all right. So again, what he's trying to say here is they go hand in hand. We could still have that prevention, and then we can also have forest stewardship and restoring those ecosystems and thinning those overcrowded stands, supporting that healthy fire with prescribed burns and protecting our watersheds and our habitats and communities. Stewardship is long-term and that equals wildfire risk reduction. Supporting thinning is the one things we can do close to home as well in our own properties. Risk versus threat, they're not the same thing. Risk is what can happen if a fire happens. You could lose your home, you could lose your infrastructure. The threat is how likely a fire is to start. That doesn't necessarily mean everybody's in a threat. Sometimes the threat's low, but when it does happen, the risk is high. All right, reasons for these extreme fires is we all know we live in the desert and high temperatures and climate change. As you know, right now, we've just had spring in January, so totally unusual. Record high winter precipitation, although we haven't had that this year, we have in the past. Years of prolonged drought, looks like we may be up for one of those this year. Fire seasons are lasting 105 days or longer in Nevada. Low relative humidity is what we average, about 1%. And anybody that lived here for a day knows that we have zephyr winds. And development into the wildland urban interface, which is an environmental change. The more we push out, the more we're increasing that risk. All right, so we're going to talk about our wildfire preparedness. Wildfire's full speed can grow an acre a second, sometimes triple that. In an afternoon, it can take over thousands of acres. Like I said, they can move 60 miles per hour and safe. And that's looked safe only moments earlier. And at those speeds, escape becomes almost impossible. So planning, evacuation could be nearly tragic. All right, this is the Caldor fire, and I want to talk about one of the main reasons fires start. Most people think it's a big wave, like a tsunami of flames. That's not the case. As you can see, we have high winds and embers. And you can see that there's no big wall of fire, but there's a big wall of burning embers blowing. And these embers are what starts fires. And I just want you to notice just how fast those embers are traveling down. So lessons learned from those fires. Oh, no, we're not there yet. Okay. So lessons learned. The most damage in homes in a fire are in the 0 to 10 to 5 foot range. That's from the roof out 5 feet. That's usually the debris close up to the house in that 5 foot zone. In the flower beds is usually, flammable mulch, where the vents can get in, they're not screened, and debris in the gutters. As I said, sorry, I didn't realize that was redundant. Go ahead, go to the next one. So this is 2 pictures of what we don't want to see. The one on the left is really common. We've got junipers and right up against the house, combustible mulch, and that's just looking to be ignited. What we'd like to see is more non-combustible vegetation, mostly like succulents, stuff like that, and fire-resistant planting and hard surfaces. What we want to do is interrupt that fire's path, and any small change can result in big results. Okay, this one, famous video, my favorite. This is in Colorado. The fire is over a mile away. So as an ember hit their mow and start a fire. Just happened to have the fire department parked in their driveway. I think they got it, and they're finding that they just saw the little spark underneath that pillar right there starting to smoke. It comes with his water bottle. You can see that one little ember that started that went up that pillar. The pillars are hollow, and it's how fast it spread.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
And then it hit the ring camera. So that house was a total loss. And you see it just happened in less than 10 minutes. So what we're finding is residents' beliefs and attitudes that wildfire is the enemy. It's not the enemy. It's the firefighter's job to rescue me, and I'll have a fire truck parked in my driveway. Well, you see how that went for that guy. Nobody can tell me what to do with my property, but the government should aid me after a disaster. I'm helpless in the face of a wildfire, and there's nothing I can do to reduce my risk. Well, we're here to tell you that none of that's true, except for even if we had a fire truck. So some of the common myths we find in here is that my home has a steel and metal roof and steel beams. Steel beams don't burn. That is a picture down south in Holbrook Junction up at Tamarack Farm. And one is that homes with stucco siding and metal roofs don't burn. Well, this guy needed some, bird maintenance on his house. But you can see on the gutters right there, there's a little lip right there. He had some ladder fuels underneath that tree, it lit, and then lit the house on fire. Just from that little opening that we talked about. I live on a golf course. My home is safe from wildfire. The golf course is, but the homes aren't. See. And the last one I love is I don't have any brush near my home, and I don't live in a high fire area. This is Napa, and you can see the devastation on that. The trees, I always get asked, about the trees, and the trees are silly. Trees are green and healthy. Not all of them survived, but you can see that they were healthy and green. Not everything burned. And these homes didn't just burn because of flame length or wind rates, by the way. They burned because mitigation hadn't happened yet. And all those decisions that shape mitigation are right here in this room, right here. Becoming a Firewise USA or a fire adapted community is one of the most practical and scalable efforts that you can take to as a board or an HOA or as a homeowner to prevent that. All right, we're going to get into some statistics. I just want to point out there's the difference between a wildland fire versus a wildfire. Wildland fires are usually what we do when we're doing control burns, or they have a let it burn policy. We back burn, like the Basque will do after grazing, something like that. That is a wildland fire. They're controlled and important for our ecosystems. Wildfire is the uncontrollable and destructive fire that comes into our urban areas. Now we're going to get into some statistics for you. Nevada is not immune to fires. I know everybody's like, oh, it's California, California. Well, those are coming over. We're not immune. Over 1 million acres burn in Nevada during our severe fire seasons. And our fuel load is a lot different. We have range and sage and pinyon and juniper, and they burn fast and hot. Drought and invasive grasses increase that. As you know, cheatgrass is our most reliable crop in Nevada, and we can count on it coming, and it makes everything go fast and hot as well. So no community is automatically safe from that, not your rurals, not your urban areas, and not even your foothill neighborhoods. It can happen anywhere. And these aren't, the same fires. They're large scale fires and rangeland and big fire events. Nevada is more than 80% owned by federally managed land. That means we have diverse demographics and geographical locations on how those fires, and not one is the same and will never burn the same. Wind-driven range fires can move miles in a single afternoon, like we talked before. So it's practical and measurable, and it signals that our communities need to take action on that wildfire risk. Some more stats for you that I got in the last couple of days. So nearly 22,000 Nevada homes sit at a moderate or high wildfire risk. $14.7 billion is the estimated exposed reconstruction value. That's reconstruction. Policy cancellations are up 82% in 1 year, and application denials are up 105%. Beginning in 2026, wildfire coverage may no longer be guaranteed in standard policies, and this is no longer about fire behavior. It's about being insured. What was I going to tell you on this one? I just looked this up. The insurance company's price risk is at a rebuild cost, not on Zillow. So you can say, oh, my house is worth $4.5 million on Zillow. The rebuild cost is $1 million. So that's what they're looking at. They're not looking at, said so. Mitigation is no longer about surviving. It's your home surviving. It's about being insurable now. We want to make sure you can stay in your home and your home's insured. Okay, when we talk about wildfire costs, we usually talk about suppression and insured costs. That's the visible tip of the iceberg. Under the surface are health impacts, infrastructure damage, ecosystem loss, water contamination, and long-term recovery. If we only budget for the tip, we will always be underprepared for the total. And this is what we see in the media. This isn't a fire problem, it's a systems problem. Media focuses on the dollars and not a ripple effect. And what I want to talk about here is headlines report the acres burned and suppression spending. That's usually what you see. They don't report spikes in asthma. They don't report contaminated water systems. They don't report small businesses that never reopen. They don't report the families that have to relocate. I mean, if we measure the wrong things, then we prioritize the wrong solutions. So the numbers that we track shape the policies that we fund. All right. When we count all three layers in these total multipliers here, we're talking about direct and indirect and long-term costs. Direct costs are visible: suppression, emergency response, and property damage. Indirect costs show up months later, like I said, those lost wages, business interruption, declining property values. Long-term impacts can last decades, talking about that watershed damage, the smoke health effects, and infrastructure rebuild and replacement. And when you stack these layers, wildfire is not a seasonal event. It's an economic multiplier. And as you know, we don't even have a season anymore. Our largest fire was in February. So which layer do you think, most communities underestimate? Oh, stunned you into silence. Okay. Yeah. Next one. All right, so here we're going to talk about mitigation is cheaper than recovery. And yes, mitigation requires upfront investment. No kidding. It's going to take you, a few $1,000s to pull out 27 junipers. But it can feel politically hard. We understand that as well. But suppression spending is reactive and mitigation is strategic. So when we're talking about defensible space and clearing the space around your home, that's what we're talking about. When you count on healthcare, infrastructure, ecosystem services, and displacement, prevention becomes fiscal and conservative choice. So the money's there in the long run. You're getting more bang for your buck and a return on your investment. Resilience is not a luxury; it's a cost containment. And what I mean by that is the question isn't whether we can afford mitigation; it's whether we can afford not to. Especially with the insurance. Okay. And the true cost of wildfires recovery. I have a report about it on the 2022 total cost of wildfire report done. If anybody wants it, I have it. It's about 72 pages of insomnia here. But anyway, you can read that. And wildfire affects physical systems. It affects economic systems. It affects environmental systems. And it affects the social systems. Recovery is not just about rebuilding home, it's rebuilding the trust, the workforce, water systems, our tax base, and community identities. If recovery is the most expensive phase of a wildfire, then resilience must be the smartest investment. What do we do? We can become fire-adapted communities. What Fire Adapted Nevada does is we help you through all of that process in creating that. We can, to these meetings like this, we have partners like Brett here. He's your community liaison for that, for the county. We assist them in becoming those steps. And the next steps will show you that. How to become a Firewise community. Step 1, form a small committee. It takes 8 homes to become a Firewise community. And Firewise USA is under the NFPA, and it's a voluntary program, but it recognizes these communities for the hard work. We're also working with the Department of Insurance to get these Firewise communities recognized for those lower insurance rates. Right now, USAA Insurance is a partner with Firewise USA, and they do offer discounts. So that does get you some benefits. So creating that committee, you only need 8 homes in your community to start that. And we hope those 8 homes spark, so to speak, the rest of the community. Step 2, get a wildfire risk assessment. That's what Brett and I do. We'll come out and assess your community. Create a small, simple 3-year plan based on that risk. So Brett comes out and tells you, he's like, wow, you guys really need a whole bunch of defensible space inspections, or you need a fire break, or whatever that is. Based on that, you can create that 3-year plan. In the next 3 years, we want to apply for a grant, or we want to have Truckee Meadows come out here and help us with mitigation. We want to have a wildfire awareness day, whatever that is, that's all it takes. And step 4, invest $24 per dwelling a year. That's really, we do it on a volunteer hour basis. Is a little higher than that. And everything you do adds up to meet those requirements of that Firewise community. And the Firewise investment's based on the number of homes that you create. And that could be what we're doing right now. It could be community cleanup days, whatever that is. Submitting your application, it's all online. It walks you through. It's drop-down menu. It's easy peasy as could be. The most anybody's ever spent as a Firewise leader was 12 hours a year putting in the information. It's not hard. And I'm here to help you, and Brett's here to help you. And then it's practical and measurable, and it works. So keeping that sustained. We're here to support that, and we're here to offer those services and to keeping you Firewise and to keeping you safe and resilient. You know, we talk about defensible space. I kind of hate that word because it means so many things to different people. Like defensible space to Brett could be, a 400-mile deal break around a community. To me, defensible space means, at your house. In my view, defensible space should be, is your home survivable? That's what we want to know. And that's what you should ask yourself. And so what you need to get there, that's what we're here for. And that's it. It takes you guys to do that, because at a global, we're not going to be in your driveway. You're not going to have the rate the insurance companies going. You may or may not have that, but we can help you. But we can assure you that we can make your house as survivable as we can. that's it. And I'm gonna turn it over to Brett, my partner in fire, for the rest of the story.
I don't have a lot more, but I do want to mention some really like exciting work that we're doing at the county level and with all of our cooperators. We're doing something called the Community Wildfire Protection Plan, or the County Wildfire Protection Plan, or CWPP. So the acronym works for all of it. So that plan, it's a plan developed by all of the cooperators across the county. It's the cities, both Sparks and Reno are invested in that. Obviously the county, that's in the entire footprint all the way to the Oregon border. The state, both our federal agencies, whatever those look like in the next few months. And then emergency management, Tumwa, NV Energy, I mean, you name it, all the agencies are at the table. And so what this plan does is it allows us to analyze our risk from a county-wide level, understand where our most at-risk areas are across the county, prioritize whatever funding we can, we'll prioritize whatever project we're going to make the biggest bang for the buck to mitigate our fire risk, and put all that into a plan that can be then something digestible for all of you, for the public. It's like an action plan on the community scale. It's an action plan for the county and for all of our cooperators to work together to make sure that we're not just mitigating the fuels over here on Forest Service or the grass out east on BLM. We're doing it across boundaries, across jurisdictions. So it's a more effective product in the end. And it's something that just stands up to the test of time, because that's what we see is everyone's doing their own thing and it's not connecting. And then, once you do a project, it's kind of forgotten about. We don't want to see that happen. So this plan, it's a long time in the making. Our last plan was done in 2004. They're usually done about every 5 years. And so that's something that's happening as we speak. Had a meeting about it yesterday about our risk mapping process. And so that we expect to be done in the fall. But in that process, because we need the investment from the community, that's part of that plan. There's going to be a lot of solicitations for information for your feedback on the plan, on where you see risk in the community, or what's the most important thing to you with wildfire mitigation. A lot of surveys, a lot of you want the data back on how this plan can be most effective. So I'll be back here again, I'm sure. But we want to make sure that when we broadcast those things through county sites, through Truckee Meadows, through all the different venues, you're going to see a survey, that you participate, because that lends more credence to the plan. So that's my ask. I guess one other point I want to add on to Kelly is the community aspect of wildfire defense. It might seem daunting to be, the community leader, to be the person who, rallies the troops on your street or your HOA to say, let's do wildfire mitigation. I'd say, don't think about it like what your end state is. Think about what you can start with, and because what's the way to eat an elephant? One bite at a time. So you're starting with your property. You're just first establishing, okay, what do I need to do to fix my wildfire risk? Maybe I don't need to do much, but if you can fix that little circle around your house in those defensible space zones that is all the literature up here talks about. If you can fix that, then we can be like, okay, now let's look over the fence line. Let's look in the backyard and the neighbors and see if that situation, if a risky situation is presented from there. Because we know through all the fires that we've had, that fires propagate through communities, especially tight-knit ones. They usually go from home to home. And that's how we have conflagration fires. So we want to make sure that if we're doing mitigation, it's on a community-wide scale. And so if you do everything right, it doesn't necessarily mean your house will stand a wildfire. The best way to do that, instead of the government saying, you must fix your growth of weeds, is for neighbors to work together and to start, building that community resilience, on your own. We're here, obviously I'm here as one person in Truckee Meadows as a resource to help you understand where your risk is. That's most of my job, is trying to help you understand that. And so I will always respond. I'll always pick up the phone. I'll leave cards on the table to anybody who calls and asks for a risk assessment. You'll get a nice little form at the end that says, these are the things we recommend to fix. Always do that for anybody who calls. I tried to I still have to apply for grants and still have to get money coming in, but I'll always make that happen within a couple of weeks if I get some phone calls. So I recommend that. And then obviously the Firewise USA thing, that's taking on a little bit more of a step. But that risk assessment is the first step of that, because then once you go into the Firewise USA program, then it's a community assessment, which we do at the same time. And then we analyze, your street or those 8 homes that of your neighbors that you want to bring into this Firewise USA program. So starting with your house, working outward from there, and then, being just the firebrand, so to speak, to get everybody else on board. So just to understand, what liability or what risk you face, because that's one of those common myths, is that I live in, the east side of Spanish Springs. I don't have a huge risk out here. Insurance might not think so. They have a very different risk model that looks at a lot of different things, because they're looking at it from the financial value. They need to be fiscally solvent, that they're not going to write policies if they're not. And so if they see that they have too much liability in this neighborhood, and they've got 20% of the policies, if they have a conflagration fire, as low a chance as that might be, they would lose everything and they can't pay those policies. That means they can't write those policies. So they're looking to drop some percentage of the amount of policies they write in that neighborhood. 89511, for obvious reasons, Galena Forest is being hit hard because
Financial concentration.
they have too much liability there. It can happen anywhere in Nevada though. And so really if they're going to go look at who to cancel, they're more likely they have to do an inspection in that process. It might be a drone, it might be a drive-by. But if they're seeing this house, your house did mitigation, and then the neighbor didn't, or this one down the street didn't, guess which one they're going to look to cancel first? It's going to be the person who didn't do mitigation. So again, proactivity, it'll pay off in the end. So that's my kind of plea to you, is kind of start thinking about it. It's the time of year, again, like I said, it's nice and cool out. Just start thinking about it, and then we can, start taking bites as we go into the future with more houses, more communities, and grow the solution. Okay. Thank you.
Any questions?
I just wanted to make a comment that I really like that you're collaborating with the insurance companies, because I know a lot of communities, their insurance rates have gone way up, especially if they're in one of these high areas along the tree lines. And so I'd love to have you back at some time. We do have some meetings coming up with GoBag and Smart 911 in July. And maybe we could all gather some of our neighbors to come in, and we could maybe start something with this, the FAN.
I will tell you that I am on the Department of Insurance Wildfire Working Group.
Right.
We just have a meeting, so we are looking at every issue that I just said. And, we're really trying to push the insurance commissioner to help push those agents to understand Firewise communities again. And it's not just USAA that's offering discounts. We've had Firewise communities have people lose their policies, and they'd say, hey, they're saying I have to come out and cut this tree. And they're looking at it from a drone. And we'll come out and say, no, absolutely not. And we'll do a defensible space inspection, make our recommendations. They follow up with those recommendations and turn that back in to their insurance agent with that Firewise recognition certificate, and they have gotten their policies back. So
Yeah,
we are also
that's really
working on
important.
training under Fire Adaptive Nevada, is training those insurance agents so they know what they're looking at, because most don't know their ash from an aspen. So on that.
No, I think that's a great opportunity. So maybe July just to plant that seed in your mind that maybe you can invite some neighbors and we can invite them back, and we could maybe get something going for our own neighborhoods. With that too, I want to just say that there is a regional fire services study community input session coming up, and there's a flyer at the front of the table. And that is, the public's invited to attend an information and input session on Thursday, March 19th at 6 p.m. at the Northern Nevada Public Health Conference Rooms A and B on 9th Street. So again, this flyer is on the table. And if you're interested in going to that, that might be something else that you could have your community input for. Thank you very much for being here. I really appreciated your presentation. And we do have a question. Yes.
Did you say that you would do this presentation at group meetings?
Absolutely.
I mean, like HOA meetings, it seems like would be great.
Absolutely. Oh, yep, absolutely.
For any time.
And the Firewise recognition also lowers the HOA insurance. If that HOA is part of that.
That would be powerful for many of our HOAs.
And your cards are up there?
Your contact information is.
We are good citizens at our house. We have plants that aren't bigger than maybe 2 or 3 feet, and they're within 2 or 3 feet of our stucco house. But it sounds to me like we're probably not we shouldn't be so comfortable.
It depends what the plant is. You know, there are some that are fire resistant, I don't say, because anything will burn. So there's no such thing as fireproof. I just want to lay that out there. So, except for the, ceramic plants. So,
It
yeah.
also
So-
really depends on what you're adjacent to.
Yeah,
You know, if
exactly.
you're in a concrete jungle, center of Reno is gonna be very different than the outskirts of Spanish Springs. So, and also we have to consider what's upwind. If you've got mostly open space upwind, then that's a very different fire approaching you versus, if you're on the other side and, maybe the neighbor's car catches on fire or something like that. Still potential, but the fire is gonna be behave very differently. And so that's all kind of goes into that really site-specific inspection that you like to get people.
Can I ask a quick question about mitigation and having herds of sheep go out and eat the cheatgrass along Pyramid before all the tourists come and forget that it's rural? Does the county or the fire district work with any of those shepherds to make sure that that's an opportunity that might help? It's an upfront cost, but it might be a long-term savings.
It's the upfront cost for goats and the recurrence that you need goats is about you need them every year. Because they eat the cheatgrass, their droppings grow more cheatgrass, and kind of fertilizing too. And so what we found is that unless you have a sustainable funding source to keep the goats going in year over year, there's some research that says it might be adding to the growth. It might be thatching more cheatgrass. So until you have that a good solid grant or recurring fund source that can keep goats going through, because it's pretty expensive. I tried to get a project going for the Ormat Steamboat Company down South Reno, and it was $100,000 for 1 year just to do it for 100 acres. They're very expensive. The goats, I don't know how they're getting free feed, but I guess grazers and people to shepherd them. So, but
They're great.
yeah, they're a good tool, and I think if on a local level, I think because a couple goats will eat a backyard.
Mhm.
I think that's a little more feasible than a herd of goats run by a grazer that can do this whole fuel break. I like to see again that circle around your host. If you figure out that first, a couple goats can probably fix that for you. They just might eat all your ornamentals and your flowers too.
True that.
Consider that.
Before I forget, can I have the 3 people that ask questions? I'm so bad at this, but could you just state your name for the record? So Joni, you were the first one that asked a question
Sure, Joni Hammond.
for the record. And then you asked a question, sir.
Thanks for the sir, and it's Paul Augustini.
Okay, and then
And I'm Lori Sportsoff.
did you catch that, Candy? Okay, all right. And we have one more question. And can you state your name for the record?
Betty Thiessen. I just moved into a small development up off a neighborhood way. It's senior community and it's all zero escape. But behind us, there's a corridor fenced off. I think it belongs to the county that's covered with tumbleweeds, lots of stuff that'll burn, eat grass. What do I do about that?
Usually those requests end up at the Wildland Division of Truckee Meadows. We don't have again, my boss is over there too. We we don't have the authority to just go in and mow it. And our Wildland Fuels Division, which is doing the mitigation work, we are 95% externally funded by grants or contracts. So the first part is getting me out there to see, okay, what can we do with this? What's it gonna cost, or what's the best mitigation practice for this corridor of weeds? If we can figure that out, then we get the ball rolling on, okay, maybe it's only a couple days with our crew that we have internal budget for, or it's something larger that we need to go apply for a small grant or a big grant. And obviously that, you know, those sequentially take longer and are more complicated, but that's the first step, is at least just letting us know about it, us getting eyes on it, and then figuring out what the best mitigation is. Okay.
So I let you know.
Yeah.
Thank you again so much for being here. It's important information.
Right next to my notes.
Okay, with that, we're on to agenda number 9, which is board and commission openings. And so there is no openings right now. But when we get to item number 10, which is with Candy, she will show you how you can look on the county and get involved for volunteerism with different things that might come up. She'll show you where you can find that. So with that, Candy, do you want to start the Neighborhood Development Hub? This is agenda number 10.
Yes. So those online, you won't be able to see me, but I am going to be sharing my screen. So this is Candy Ramos for the record. I'm sharing with you your new favorite website, washoecounty.gov. And I'd like to introduce the Your Government tab. This is your hub for all things about getting involved. If you come here and you click on the Get Involved link, that's where you will find all kinds of information, including your commissioner's contact information, as well as these different tabs down here. And so one thing I did want to share is our neighborhood meeting hub. This is where you have the opportunity to connect with developers who are going in really early in the process, in the development process. So before it's well underway, this is the opportunity for individuals to learn about upcoming meetings. There's both the map version, which you can zoom in on, and then you can also see by alphabetical order the different neighborhood meetings. There are only a couple of upcoming events. In fact, I think there's one tomorrow night. It's in person at Washoe County Large Human Resources Conference Room. It's in person. It's about small unit density incentive DCA neighborhood meetings. So this would apply to all districts about zoning. So this is where someone would go to this webpage to find out what's coming up, what opportunities do I have to give my 2 cents as it relates to upcoming developments or ordinance changes, things like that. So this is an opportunity for you here. So that, again, you can find this just on the Get Involved page. You'll also find on here, of course, our Citizens Advisory Board. So you're at one now. If you ever click on that, you can find the agendas. And then there's volunteer opportunities. So this is for upcoming board and commission openings. As Chair Billings mentioned, there are none, but when there are, this is where they will be posted. There are also other volunteer opportunities if you'd like to get involved with CERT, our Community Emergency Response Team, if you'd like to become a CASA volunteer. So there's just a few of these different volunteer opportunities. Again, you can find that on our community involvement page. Back there. And this is also important. As you'll see over there, there is a QR code on the table over there where you can provide input. As Chair Billings mentioned, we do collect your input and then we report out what we did with that information. You can also find that if you don't have a smartphone or you don't want to type in your long information on your phone, you can find your community input portals here as well. So you just view the category for the community input portal, and there is a Spanish Springs specific page. So you click on that, you go in here, and this is where you can provide your input. So, and you can sign up for emails right to your inbox. So there's a lot of opportunities for people to get involved, and we hope that you will. And I wanted to also point out, I forgot to mention on the Neighborhood Development Hub, let me get back to the home page. If you scroll down, this is where you can sign up to receive emails direct to your inbox. And you live in District 4 if you're in the Spanish Springs area. So you'd be in District 4, you put your email address here, So you don't have to remember to come to the neighborhood development hub all of the time. You would get notifications sent directly to your inbox. So that's another opportunity to become aware. So lots of good opportunities to get involved.
Yeah, I like that website. I use it quite a bit. Oh, thank you, Candy.
Thank you.
So now we're going on to agenda number 11, and I don't have any requests for public comment. So just encourage you again, if you do have public comment, the form's at the table and you just submit it to the front table, and then we make sure that you have time for your public comment. All right, so now some announcements that are coming up. Again, at the back of your packet, I just want to stress that the Dignity Index is something that we're really trying to implement for our own behavior. And like I said, just reading this can help you even with your friends, family, and church discussions when the emotions get high. So the other thing that I'd like to announce is the upcoming agendas for our CAB. So what we've got coming in April is the RTC and NDOT together. So several times you've asked for this, for the two to come together, so they can't say, well, that's NDOT's problem, that's RTC's problem. So they are committed to come together, and I really appreciate that. So that is the April meeting. Spread that around to your neighbors so they can come and hear about the updates. And then in May, we have the outdoor recreation and natural attractions. And so last year we had the Indian Colony come and speak to us because they're our neighbors, and they gave a great presentation, and I think all of us really enjoyed that. Now, June is something really fun. So we're going to plan what's called a problem-based meeting. And what we're going to do is we're going to role play. The board members don't know a lot about this yet because they are actually going to be assigned a role that they will play in June. But we are going to have, I have decided that Brad, since he's not here, he's online, but I've decided that he is going to play the role of a, what do I want? I just lost the word. He's going to have a project that he wants to submit before the.
He'll be the applicant.
He'll be the applicant, and he's going to apply for a project that he wants the Planning Commission to approve. And so, Brad, you're going to be really great at that role. I just thought of that today.
It's his hand.
He raised his hand. So anyway, spread the word about that June meeting. It'll be a lot of fun, and we'll learn so much about the complexity, about the laws that go into what a planning commission department has to do before they approve a project, or if they disapprove a project. And that's really close to our hearts out here in Spanish Springs, because we've got a lot of projects going on, and we'll all wonder, what about the infrastructure? What's going on with the traffic? Has anybody thought about that? They have. And so this June meeting, we're gonna role play. Thank you, Brad, for volunteering. And so with that, I'm gonna skip on to the item number 13, which is always, we love to hear from our commissioner. And so Commissioner Andrella, she's always here for us and backs us up and gets us our speakers, and her and Candy work really well together to get that done for us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did she tell you about the June meeting? I hope everyone spreads the word, because it's really exciting what's going to happen. We hope you'll enjoy it as much as we're enjoying putting it together. And then the board members will soon learn.
I'm going to call them.
So I really wanted to share, I think this is really exciting for our community, and for a person who's lived here almost 40 years, and my husband he's still alive. He is a native Nevadan. And so I think it's really interesting for those that have been here for a really long time, or those who have just arrived in this beautiful community we call home, that the Nevada State Fair is coming back. The Nevada State Fair will be June 11th through the June 13th. I am the president-elect for
NACO, and they came and did a presentation. And I wanted to make sure I officially shared it with you, although they've been officially sharing this since Washoe County in 2025 during the legislative session, AB 333, actually put the property where the Ridley Livestock Event Center, or what was also called the Nevada State Fairgrounds, back into the Department of Agriculture. So it's under the Nevada Department of Agriculture under Dr. JJ Gogachia's leadership. I just want to give you some like fun facts. So literally the land that we call the Nevada State Fairground or the Reno Livestock Event Center was deeded in 1867. Did y'all know that? It was deeded to agriculture. And so we're putting it back and we're celebrating that history that we cherish, right? As Northern Nevadans and Nevadans as well. But I live here, so it's Northern Nevada. And I also thought I'd share that the state fair originally began in 1874, and it ran every year until 2010. So really celebrating the leadership of Dr. JJ Gokachia and certainly recognizing Washoe County and all the parties during the legislative session to put that back into play. That was not designated in the bill to have the state fair, but it did go back to the Department of Agriculture. And that was one of the very first things that Dr. JJ Gokachia committed to bringing the state fair back. So the Nevada Junior Livestock Show will be there. The University of Nevada Reno Extension's 4-H State Expo, the Nevada Governor's Sale of Champions, Farmers Market, Pavilion, and then Next Generation Junior Bull Riding, which should be fun. If you want to learn more, you can go to statefair.nv.gov, and they are going to be rolling out all of the details. You can go on there and look at some of the framework of it, but all of the details, hours, and that kind of thing will be updated very, very soon. So that's my first thing to share, which I think is super exciting. The other thing, just in light of the wonderful presentation that we just had, if you weren't able to participate or you weren't aware, Washoe County and the Division of Insurance actually did a community forum based on insurance and wildfire on February 24th, 2026. You can go on YouTube and just search, if you will, for Division of Insurance Community Forum, and you'll find it, or you can go on to Washoe County. I think it might be easier for you too, but your choice on how you want to search for that. And then the last thing, which is really applicable to the Citizens Advisory Board, which we have these wonderful people, and Brad online, the vice chair of the CAB. Through the process over a period of time, there has been a really great commitment by the staff and legal at Washoe County to look at the CABs. And one of the things is now going through the process of looking at the bylaws. And so public engagement is critical. Transparency is paramount. And so I want to make sure that you all know it's hot off the press, but the bylaws public engagement process will be rolled out sometime in April. So that's, I kind of set that up. I don't have a specific, but it'll be in April. And we'll share that information and it'll be available for you to participate. That is going to be open for a while, a few weeks, so that we can have everybody throughout the entire Washoe County be able to look and give feedback on the bylaws. For me, I also am thrilled to share that the maps will also, meaning the district maps for each of the 5 districts that all of commissioners represent, those maps are going to be aligned and those will be forthcoming. All of that, once finalized, will go through the commission at the Board of County Commission meeting, and then we'll go through the process of, being agendized. And I just thought I'd share that with you. Many of you may not be aware, but they're just through just the process of time. The maps haven't necessarily aligned exactly with the district to which a commissioner oversees. So it's exciting to be able to have everything be updated to be able to have the maps align as well, as I mentioned. And then lastly, I really want to extend a huge thanks to the chair and vice chair for the last year and a half or so. We've been working on really putting the process of how everything happens with cabs, not bylaws, but the actual internal process. So when you all come to this wonderful meeting and have staff support and all of that, there's a lot of things that happen behind the scenes in order for us to get here where we're at today. And so we put that document together, and I believe that will soon be shared with all of the cabs. But I do want to recognize Chair Billings and Vice Chair Bradley Young for many hours that they had to endure me. I mean, that in and of itself, you should give them a big round of applause. But I am going to give them a big round of applause for helping steer this to where we're at. And I think those of you that have participated in the cabs have seen the improvement of what we're trying to do, because this is really for you. This is really for us, and it's a two-way communication. And so thank you so much for the opportunity, and thank you, and thanks all of you for everything that you do. And thank you, Candy, for all your support. Thanks to a great county manager and to Elizabeth Jordan, who's also staff as well, who's really been supporting, especially the CAP process. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Commissioner. She's a dream to work with, so don't believe her. She advocates for us, she listens to us, and she helps us get places. She's a real big cheerleader for Citizens Advisory Boards. So thank you, Commissioner Andriola, for all that you do. All right, with that, guess what? Do I have a motion to end this meeting?
I'll make the motion. Jason, have a second.
And all those in favor?